So this is it. We're gonna just bow our heads and pray. For everybody who is new and joined this session, we welcome you. If you're here with us in a Zoom room or you are on Facebook Live, so we're gonna start the tree honors, but before that, we're gonna pray. Let's bow our heads. Dear God, thank you so much for the time we can be together. Thank you so much for Peter Bo, who is presenting right now for us. We're praying for the double portion of the Holy Spirit for all the Pathfinders at the moment. We also would like to bring at the moment to you, God, those people who are not feeling so well. As this world is going through pandemic, we know that we only have safety in you, Jesus. And that doesn't always mean, dear God, a health, but that means we have safety of eternal life. So for everything you have done for us, we thank you, and we say thank you so much again for dying on the cross and for the promise of the eternal life. In the name of Jesus we pray, amen. It is your time.
Thank you. As I said before, I live in Denmark, and of course I tried to aim for looking for trees as they are in UK, so we're sure that it's not Danish trees or Norwegian trees we're talking about, but the British trees. My passion for trees is I'm actually a carpenter many years ago, so I love working with wood, and still do. I do a lot of wood carving as well. So for me, I think it's amazing that we have the trees. First of all, they give us oxygen. They give us a nice view. The forest is a special place that we have, and these trees, I mean, wherever you sit right now, you will be able to see some furniture. You'll be able to see some of your houses is built by trees. So trees is just everywhere. I think that was my start. Now I'll try to share my screen.
Yeah, that's fine, Peter. I did not know that you were a carpenter. This is something new I just learned about you. Hey, so you are even more like Jesus than I thought. That is beautiful. So Peter, here we are, PowerPoint presentation. We can see it all, and you can take us now slide by slide.
Okay, so I take the slides. We'll take the different questions now. I will give some small stories and tell a bit more about trees, what they can do, the special thing about it. So the first question is, describe the way in which trees and shrubs differs. Generally, trees are much taller than shrubs. And where I come from in Denmark, we say that a tree is taller than 5 meters and shrubs is up to 5 meters high. Of course, the tree are tall. It has a main trunk, and all the branches comes out from the trunk. Let me see if I can move this one. Then we have the shrubs, the small bushes. They, of course, they're shorter. They have multiple stems rather than a single trunk. And some plants, no matter where they are, they can be considered either shrubs or trees depending on where they're growing in conditions. So it's not always that you can say if a tree is taller than 5 meters, it's a tree, or if it's a shrub, if it's less than 5 meters. One of the example is hazel. I guess you all know the hazel. That is a tree, but it's, as you can see in the picture, it has many trunks, and it looks much more like a bush than a tree, but it is actually a tree. A rhododendron is also, it is a tree, but many people are seeing it as a bush because we have it in the gardens. In Denmark, I would say a rhododendron 5 meters tall is something special, but I've seen in Great Britain that there is many rhododendron that is maybe up to 10 meters tall, and you see there's a real tree underneath. So that was the difference between trees and shrubs. Now the next one is a bit difficult to sit here on the internet doing, because you will have to go out and you will have to collect and identify leaves from 15 species. Of course, we can't do that now, and
that's right.
So I will have to ask you to go out. I don't know. Are you allowed to go out now, Dan?
So we are allowed only to go for essential stuff here in United Kingdom. I don't know how the rest of the world. If you're able to do it in the rest of the world, we would ask you to do it, but of course make sure that you're safe. If you're not able to go and collect the 50 leaf samples, in that case, make sure you do all the paperwork, and then when this virus stops, we will be then just going collecting leaves. So in other words, just because you're doing now this theoretical part, that doesn't mean you can't complete it. It just means we want you to be safe for now. If you don't have a garden which has that many trees or that many samples, for now, this is the part to keep it after the pandemic. Yeah.
When you're going out, whenever when you can do that legally, make sure you take a guidebook with you, so you have an idea about what you're looking at. And it's not just enough for you to look at the leaves. You will have to look at the bark, the environment, buds, and especially the shape of the tree. And I put in here, there's an app called iNaturalist. I do like that. If you're not sure about what tree or whatever it is, then you take a picture of it, and then it can actually tell you what it is. Then you can also upload it so people can see what you've seen, and that way you're making a bit more people. If you find something which is really, really rare, then you can use that one.
We have quite a few comments in the Zoom room, as well as on the Facebook. Some people are saying, well, I actually have all the trees that I need for this honor round. So they're asking, can I do it? Absolutely, you can do it. If you are close by to these trees and you're not putting yourself and your family in danger, absolutely do it. And for example, in Ireland is mentioning they have a 2 kilometers radius around the house, which should definitely allow you to find the leaves you need, but still put safety first. Honors are beautiful, but we need you to be healthy as well. So you make a decision what is the best thing for you.
Then when you're out in the nature looking for trees, I realized that in UK there's something called the Great Nut Hunt. Dan, have you heard about it?
Taking into consideration that I live in this country for a really long time, no, I don't. Sorry.
Okay, it's something about the hazel dormice that is in danger. It's more in danger in Denmark than in UK. But by collecting nuts, you can go in on the web page and then you collect the nuts and you send them to somewhere, and then they will look at the nuts and look what animals that has been biting in the nuts, and their way they can see in what area where you have put you, wherever GPS or put your where you are, where you found the nut, then they know what kind of animals there is in that specific area. So if you're interested in animals as well, that could be a case when you're out in the forest and you find some nuts where there has been some animals that has bitten on them. So that was the thing. Get out and see some trees. Use a guidebook or the app. There might be more different apps than this one, but I like this. Then when you have collected your leaves, you'll take them at home, you spread them neatly and press dry them some sort of paper. And I don't know, I've done this for, it's not 2 weeks ago, but I went out and saw some collected some leaves. We still have frost in the evening here, so our leaves on trees are not that big. But I went out, and I don't know if can we see this. So I took a few leaves here. So you just take them into a book, and then if they're moist, I have a normal paper on, and then I have the napkins, and then I have 2 leaves here. How does that go? Now they are not completely dried up yet. Dejan, can I just leave this, or shall I take the?
Oh, you can leave PowerPoint presentation if you want for people to see.
Yeah, I think I will.
Yeah.
Stop share. There we go.
Yeah, show us now, Peter.
Yeah. So I went out, and this is a beech tree, and this is the biggest leaf I can find. As because of the frost, I think it goes a while before we get new one. This is actually quite what?
Especially in Denmark, to dry the leaf is like a really long thing to do.
This is difficult. So you see, this one is not completely dried yet. Yes. If you look at this one, you can see there is some hair.
Yeah. What is that?
Those hairs are on the. This is one of the first trees that comes up, and here it's a kind of competition that who finds the first beech tree. And I had to go down to Vejlefjord, where there's a parking place nearby, and that's the place where this tree always gets out first. I have one in my garden, but it still looks like it's winter time. There's nothing on it. So the special about this one is the small hair, and these hairs is actually protecting the leaf against the frost. So right now it's doing a great job, because we still have -2 degrees every night, and the hair actually makes sure that the trees is.
Peter, how would you describe -2 temperature for those people who join us from the Caribbean islands or Africa or United Arab Emirates? How does it feel?
Very cold, especially if it's wind. Yeah. The problem is now that here the sun is so fantastic. Everybody is out in the gardens, and they buy a lot of flowers, and they put them in the soil, and then they freeze in the night, and they have to replace the flowers. Anyway, that has nothing to do with trees.
Okay.
So this time of year is very good, or maybe a few weeks after this, where you go out and you get the leaves. The leaves are perfectly, now they're fresh, and there's not been any animals in, or there's been any damage to them. So from now on, and maybe until May, you can find the most perfect leaves. You can also, of course, collect them during the autumn time. Then you can get more. I'll just share my screen again.
Yeah, no problem at all, Peter.
You can share the. Then you can get different colors, because especially when the frost comes, again, if you're from Caribbean, it's not that important. Then the frost does something to the leaves, so you get all this variety of from green and up to brown and red and yellow leaves, and that actually makes it very, very interesting to make the book that you have to make. Press, dry, sort some sort of absorbent paper, mount using tape or glue. If you want to collect some of the evergreen leaves, like from pine or something like that, it's very difficult to press those leaves in a book. You need many books or a card to put on top of it, or you could use something called epoxy, and that way you can put that in your book, and it actually keeps the 3D in when you're making this one. And then, of course, you will have to label it in a suitable notebook. the suggestion was that you actually take it so you can have it in your uniform sized sheet of paper, so you can have this one with you, and you will always be able to see what kind of trees that you, if you can't remember them. Here's a picture of some of the leaves. This is more plants. When you're doing this, make sure that you have a piece of paper in between, so you don't make any marks in your book. Unless it's a book about leaves, then maybe it's okay. So keep it for 2 weeks and create your book as you want it. Now, of course, you put the name of the tree in, you put the date, you put the place where you have found it, and I also think it could be fun if you put in what kind of use that you're using that kind of tree for. And then since we're Pathfinders, I think it would be pretty cool if you could measure the height of the tree where you have found it. And also take a picture if there's seeds or any fruits from the tree as well. If you want to know about how to measure the height of the tree, you can Google that, or there's different ways of finding out how tall a tree is. But I actually think you should add that one to your when you're going on your expedition and going out for your trees. That would be awesome to have that, if it's 15 meters or 25 meters.
Peter, we have quite a few questions. Once again, going back to your hairy leaf.
Yeah.
So people are wondering why your leaf has hair. So just quickly, if you just can recap for everybody who is watching right now,
Okay.
to be able to get an answer.
The beech is one of the first trees that is coming out with the leaf, and when there's hairs around it, that hair actually insulate the leaf against the frost, if there's coming some night frost. At this time of year, I think also in UK you can get, during the night it can drop below zero, and these small hairs actually insulate. If you go out in the forest and you see a forest of beech trees, let me see if I can find my tree. They are actually dropped it anyway. The beech tree is the green color of trees of the leaves are just amazing. So if you have a possibility from now on and maybe a month ahead, try to go into a forest where there is a lot of beech trees and see that green fantastic light that is from a specific tree. I will
Thank you, Peter.
Then when you're collecting them, there's another way of using the trees, the leaves. This is a picture of a lot of trees. This is, sorry, of leaves that is collected in the autumn. So you can see you have different colors from gray, green, yellow, and all kinds of leaves. And this is actually a decoration for a table. Don't you think this is amazing? I think this is, I like it, and I've done a few, and now I'll just stop sharing again. There we go. So these leaves are laminated, and you can actually laminate them when they're fresh. They will lose a little of the color, but you can keep the color, so you don't have to dry them. This is also the beech leaf. I laminated just beforehand, and it changed the color a little bit, but that's also nice ways of keeping your leaves. I know that you have been. Wait, I can't check if you're going out, but I have done a little Kahoot challenge. It's if you go into tinyurl.com/treehonour, or you can take the picture here. I will show it later on, and maybe Dejan can share it on the web page. It's open until I think in May 10 or something like that. There's 15 trees. It's just a small quiz about some of the trees. So please, if you want to, go in and do the Kahoot.
Yeah, what we're gonna do, we're gonna post those that link in the chat rooms everywhere we can.
Okay.
People can take it. So don't worry too much if you didn't manage to scan that code. We will definitely post the links for everybody.
Name 2 examples each of the tree that have been named for. So what are they used for? The surrounding or environment in which they grow, some distinguished features, and the geographic region in which they live, and then persons who first found and described them. What are they used for? If you know the cork oak is a kind of an oak that has a very thick bark, and that bark is actually what we make the cork for bottles with. It's about from 1 to 2 inch thick, and it's quite decorative as well, where people are using it for special decorations during around Christmas. Then we have the sweet gum, the gum tree, where we get the gum tree. So these 2 trees are named from what they've been used for, is the name of the tree. The surrounding or environment in which they grow, we have the mountain ash, that of course works on the mountain. Field elm is on big fields, not so pretty open. Some distinguished feature, sugar maple, of course that came from maple syrup, where they are taking the juice, they drill a hole in and take the juice from it and dries it up, and that way you get sugar or syrup out of it. The hornbeam, I don't know if you know that tree, but it's actually a common English name of the hornbeam is from the hardness of the wood, like a horn. And beam is an old English word meaning a tree. So the hornbeam is actually called in English, in Old English, a horn tree, because it's so hard. And then of course the tulip tree, if you've seen the tulip tree, the flowers, very beautiful flowers, that's around May they come out. They're only out for about 20 days or something like that. They look like a tulip, and that's the reason they call it tulip tree. D, the geography region in which they live. There's a tree called Plymouth pear tree, found in Plymouth for the first time. Then we have the Scotch pine, and we have the Norway spruce. And then number E, person who first found and described them. The Douglas fir is a name that honors a person called David Douglas, a Scottish botanist who first introduced the trees into cultivation in 1826. And that tree is actually being used for really, really a lot of things. So everything is, a lot of things is called Douglas now. Fraser fir, named after John Fraser, a Scottish botanist. He farmed them, and he actually sold them as Christmas trees. Give the common name and tell the difference between the 2 great classes of trees. Gymnosperms and angiosperms are the names of the different trees. In my country, we call them needle trees and leaf trees. Angiosperms is also called hardwood, It's not really true, because there's a lot of trees with leaves that is actually soft wood. But the difference is, of course, they have leaves. Most of them has a kind of flowers, and they drop the leaves during the winter. And then the roots are deeper. So many times the nutrition's soil where they grow is a bit better, and therefore they send their roots down, further down in the soil to get more nutritions. And that also makes them stronger in storms. Then we have the needle trees or gymnosperms, the softwood. The softwood are mostly evergreens. Mostly.
Why, Peter? Why, Peter? They're called softwood.
Yeah, let me just. There's one of those trees in our area.
Yes, Peter.
Yeah, sorry. Softwood. Softwood is wood which is lighter. It's not so strong, but it's easy to handle. So let's say pine is a tree that we're building a lot with. It's easy to cut in. It's not so heavy. It's pretty strong. But if you have a wooden floor made of pine, you can easily make marks in it because it's more soft than the hardwood. The evergreens, that means that most of the needles are staying on. So during the winter time, you can see the green ones. They don't have any flowers. And they don't make any flowers, fruits, nuts, or anything. And of course they have cones. So in the cone they are making the seeds in that, but it's not really a flower. And then again, many of these trees are actually growing in a bit poor soil. If you ever been into a forest and after a storm, you can also see that these kind of trees are more likely to fall down, because the trees, the roots are in the top soil where the nutritions are in the first half meter of the soil, from grass, trees, whatever the nutritions.
Okay.
Anything else about this one? Describe the importance of forest conservation in your area.
Peter, just before you explain this, is this something that is this following your worksheet? Is that right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So this will be 0.5, and so for everybody who is planning to complete this honor, despite that you maybe cannot do it because of the lockdown right now, if you're following worksheet, you're at a 0.5. So Peter, yeah, continue.
Yeah. Describe the importance of forest conservation in your area. I've taken these two pictures just to describe how much of a forest actually looks like. You can see this is a fir forest. It's in line. This is going to be harvested at one time. You put a machinery in, and the other picture is a forest where you have different varieties of trees. The trees falls down and they become to soil. There's a lot of animals living in it. So that is the one side. You just see the harvest of trees, and the other one is how trees should be, and the conservation is important for this. For in our kind of the world, everybody is hunting for the lumber and timber. We need to have fast timber. It grows up. You see the trees are in rows. And there's just 1 or 2 different kind of tree species. And that's, of course, it's a forest, but it's not good for a lot of the trees. The biodiversity in a real forest, in a forest conservation, is the biodiversity, where we have different kinds of species. If we only have a certain kind of species, we're actually losing species. Then we have fungus. There's a lot of fungi in forest, and those are living on the trees, or they're living in the soil under the trees. But they're actually very important for trees. They are making the root better. Fungus is really an important part of trees. Of course, they can also attack the trees, but that is important. Dead trees are important for life. We have a lot of animals that is living in the dead trees. If you've heard about this, where people are putting up bark hotels now, and beetle hotels, where they are putting small areas with where beetles can be in. What you see in the picture here is one big beetle or insect hotel, where the different species are everywhere in that forest. And this is so important for our life, that we have all the insects. The forests are a renewable resource, and that's also that people are using it for harvest, that you're cutting it down to grow up new trees. But the most important thing is that we have the conservation areas, so we can have the different species. Because the last thing is that habitats for several species, if you have plants and there's not space for them because there's only one kind of trees, they will actually die, and they will just...
Somebody's asking, Peter, how can I help in the conservation areas? In which way the people can help in the areas when it comes to conserving forests? And
if you know of a conservation area, maybe contact the owners, or contact the forest commissions or something like that, and ask if there is anything. Sometimes they're actually asking people to come out. That is in Denmark, so sorry about that. I don't know about in UK, but you can actually come in forest, and once a year we are collecting garbage. That's one thing, but there's also, try to contact the forest commissioners or those who has the conservation area in your area to help. But as you can see, it's really important that we have this kind of forest, as you can see in the picture, where it's not easy to walk around because there's trees everywhere, there's bushes. Most of us, when we are walking, we would like to have an open forest where you can look further, you can see the animals. But that's actually not, well, it's wrong to say a healthy forest, but this is really, really important, that the animals can hide, and we can grow more animals instead of, as I said here, the plants dies, but animals will also leave, or they will just die in that area if they don't have the...
As Peter, as we're going through epidemic, as we're going through pandemic of COVID-19 virus, there is also some report that some of the tree species are going through the pandemic themselves. And if I remember properly, some of the latest reports mentioned Denmark and England, and that was about ash tree. Is that right, Peter?
Yeah, ash trees has been attacked by, I think it's a beetle. And elm trees is almost gone in Denmark. because of that disease. And I do think you still have elm trees in UK, but here there's everything is gone.
Somebody also is mentioning, somebody is mentioning there are a few ways that you can help in conservation, and people are talking about recycling, people are talking about actually planting new trees. You might not be able to plant a lot of new trees, but maybe there is a place for a tree in your garden. Somebody did mention a website, a search engine that I use as well, which is called Ecosia, which is spelled ecosia.org. And that search engine, which is of course competing with Google and a lot of engines, actually claims that after a certain amount of searches that you do to this, that they can actually plant the tree for you. So at the moment, I can tell you where I'm standing at the moment using Ecosia engines for searching. They're promising to plant 700 trees for me, 742 trees in total. So there is many ways that we can help in preserving trees, at the same time help them. Peter, when it comes to important habitats, you mentioned of making potentially bug hotels or things like this to preserve and help. Did you do any of yourself, or you didn't do it yet?
I have a big garden, so I have a small. It's not a forest, but I think I have 50 trees there. So and I actually leave that. I'm not cutting the grass in there. So yes, I have a
very good
200 square meter bug hotel at home. So no, I haven't built anyone with bricks or anything, but it actually works, and it is important for our world, for that we can.
Nebraska, as we have a viewer who is saying that Nebraska, USA has planted 50 million trees since 1990s, which is beautiful. Also, for people who are in the United Kingdom, for example, when you're born in Wales, Welsh government plants a tree for you, so you can actually go and trace your tree. So I think that also when it comes to our churches, this is like really difficult, but maybe you can, as a Pathfinder group, submit the request to your church board and say, can we plant one tree next to a church? This way we can help. Peter, we have also some comments which are saying that if everybody who would like to do planting the trees, they just need to connect with the wood trusts across their countries, or well, especially United Kingdom. So somebody asked Peter how many trees there is in the world at the moment.
That's a good question, and I have no clue.
Okay, I'm gonna Google that.
But I think, can you ask the 100 people if they will find out?
Can somebody tell us how many trees there is in the world? That'll be a very good comment to have with us. Peter, how many more slides do you have?
I think I have 5, 6, 7 more.
5, 6, 7. We have about maybe about 5 to 10 minutes more of time. So people who are searching at the moment, they'll let us know. Well, we found at the moment a survey done in 2015. Estimate is the world has 3.04 trillion trees, and obviously not enough, as we are struggling with air pollution. Everybody is confirming that same figure at the moment.
Okay.
This virus is definitely reducing the air pollution, which is it is a one good thing, but of course it's not good because many people are losing their lives. That's very sad. Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. Asking if you can plant a tree is when I got my son, we planted a copper beech. It's about actually 5 meters tall now. So we make sure that it has all the nutrition that it needs, because for us it's important. But for when we're talking about the conservation area, is that it's not just about trees, it's about the different kind of trees, and we have the variety of species, and we're talking about animals and trees and plants and fungi and insects and everything that is important. It's not just about one kind of tree. So
We are also having a question, Peter. Do we have to plant a tree for this honor?
no.
No, you don't. Okay.
No. Any more questions about the this question here?
All right.
Okay. Yes. Name several examples of kind of woods used in each of the following. And this is also on your worksheet: the flooring of house, common plywood, furnitures, axes, fence post, railroad ties, support beams, bow and arrows, ideal for use for kindling, burn slows and leaves a bed of hot coals. So of course this is depending of where you are. So my answers here is mostly about where we are now, and not in let's say there was somebody from South America as well. So the oak, beech, ash, and pine. The oak, beech, and ash are hardwood. We're using that a lot. And then of course pine is a softwood, but that's also very much used in flooring. Plywood. Dan, do you know what plywood is?
Well, I know what it is. I used it. I used to live on a boat, so I used a lot of plywood.
Okay, well done, well done.
Yeah.
But plywood is actually the boards that people are using for everything. And in all part is pine, fir, and spruce is one of the most used for it. And if you remember, we were talking about a person that was, his name was Douglas. And I do that will be his name that we're using for the Douglas plywood. So that actually comes from a guy. The Douglas plywood is from a biologist in Scotland. Axes. Now I know that Dejan is. So I'll just have to stop share right now. Dejan.
Yes. Yes.
So we're talking about axes, and of course I brought a small axe with me.
Yes.
The axes, and that's also being for skis, is that when you're using the axe and you chop the wood, well done, Dejan, well done. That wood has to be elastic, and so that's sorry.
This one here, yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's a nice axe, Dejan.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Peter. That's a beautiful gift.
So I'll just share the screen again.
All right, Peter, we have about 2-3 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought we had, okay. Fence post, oak, treated pine, robinia, and cedar. Robinia you will see on playgrounds. The robinia it comes from Romania. It's a very difficult wood to work with, and it also get crooked, but it doesn't matter as long as it's playgrounds or fence posts. So that's like a new kind of wood that we're using. Railroad ties, beech, oak, and treated wood in all part of the world. Support beams for construction work is pine and oak. Again, this is in all part. Many other places is using everything else. Bows and arrows. The bows is also important that this is elastic, and therefore we also have the ash and hickory as we had for the axe handles. Yew and something orange is also something that I've never used that kind of wood before, so I don't know too much about it. But that's also, when you're googling that's a bow. That's good for bows. Ideal for use for kindling, softwood, as I said before, all with needles on. The pine, fir, spruce, and birch. The birch tree is, of course, not a softwood, but that is very good as well. Burn slowly and leave a bed of hot coals. Hardwood, like ash, oak, and beech trees. Beech is not that, it still is a softwood, but that's also very good for burning.
Excellent.
And then let's see how much we have. Name of 2 examples each of trees which grows best in wetlands and in high mountains. Sycamore, willow, birch, swamp white oak, and swamp chestnut oak grows good in wetlands. You take the birch tree, it actually a big birch tree drinks up to between 200 and 300 liters a day. So that actually needs a lot of water. Grows best in high level mountains. You can take the Norway spruce, larch pine, and birch. The mountains, if you go to Norway, Scotland, you will also see that there's a level in mountains where there is no trees, that the tree border, we call it. So from there and up, there is nothing of trees, and that makes that's because the trees cannot live above that level, and that it's not the same level in UK as it is in Norway. Yes. Yeah. That was the questions of
all right,
of that. So if you answered the questions and you'll go out and do your work, then you can have your honor.
Once again, Peter, would you be able to quickly summarize what is the requirement for the honors, just for people who are missing? What would be the requirements? That's right, just for the last few slides.
Yeah, describe the difference between shrubs and a tree.
Okay.
Tall, main trunk, all branches for trunk. The other one is shorter, multiply stem.
Yep.
Other than a single trunk. Is that what you want, Dan?
You don't have to give the answers, but just the titles so the people know. So describe what is the difference between a tree and a shrub. What is the next thing, Peter?
Yeah. Collect and identify 15 leaves.
Okay, very good. The requirement 3. It is name 2 examples of each tree.
Thank you. That was a beam on trunk. Name 2 examples each of trees that has been named for, and then what they're used for, the surroundings, some distinguished features, geographical region, and persons who found and described them.
Okay. Requirement 4.
Give the common name and tell the difference between the 2 great classes of trees.
Very good. Requirement 5.
Describe the importance of forest conservation in your area.
Excellent. 6.
Name several examples of kinds of wood used in each of the following.
And 7.
Name 2 examples each of trees with which grows best in wetlands and grow best in high-level mountains.
Excellent. Well, Peter, this is it, I guess. This is going to be so I'm going to just stop sharing the screen and just for everybody, if it's possible, let us please give a big thank you clap to Peter. I'm going to unmute everybody.